All right, what's up, everybody? Look at little small Jerry. Get out of here, Jerry. Good afternoon, everybody. We're dealing with a little bit of technical functional issues over here, but it is a standard Simply Cyber live episode, so you can expect those on the regular. Let me go ahead and bring Chad in here and welcome everybody to the stream. What's up, Lacey Cochran, Thomas Walsh, Michael Torres in the house, Paula Terranova. Always a good time with Chris Colombo, Harish Kumar. Good to see you guys. Guys, we've got a banger of an episode today. If you're new here, Simply Cyber Live is the weekly Thursday afternoon Eastern Standard Time cybersecurity themed live stream where we bring in industry professionals to tell their story, share their journey, whether they broke into the industry, whether they're an expert who's been in the industry for like a million years and they're just dropping knowledge bombs on us. We have it all. And today we have a delight for you. So please settle in, get comfortable. Everybody's like, oh, what's a day in the life of the GRC analyst, Jerry? Oh, what's a day in the life of the incident responder? Well, guess what? A day in the life is so 2022. It's 2023. We're bringing the heat. It's now all about a night in the life. And you might be thinking, what the hell? What are you talking about? Like, we're going out for drinks, Jerry? Not yet. That's later on in the month. What we're doing on stream today is talking with Jess Bishop and hopefully Stacey Lokey about what it is to work in a SOC, but on the night shift. Now you might be thinking, like, what the hell isn't that? What's the difference between that and the day shift? Well, we're gonna ask Jess and Stacey about it today. Think about all the elements of it, right? A new shift, new sleeping pattern, family, friends, and loved ones. How do you interact with that? What's your established routines? Is the work good? Is it harder? You know, threat actors do like to prey on people during graveyard shifts, during skeleton crews and holiday times. I don't know. I'm personally super excited to find out all these questions and all the answers associated with them. So let's stop futzing around. If you have any questions for our guests today, standard practice is to precede it with a Q. Carrie just did it in chat right there. Love it, love it, love it. Proceed it with a Q. I'll know it's for me or for the guests. I'll bring it in. I'm going to let them do most of the talking, but we're going to have a good time. When you're done with this show, you will know very clearly what a day/night in the life of a SOC analyst is. I'm going to go get Jess. Let's go get her. All right, Jess, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm great. Let me bring our names up onto stream so we can see those. Now, Stacey Lokey will be joining us. She's ran into an issue and will not be able to join us right this second, but I am expecting her to join. So, Jess, you're carrying the pail of water right now. Explain to us, Jess, how long have you been working in a SOC and how long have you been on the night shift?
Well, I've been working in the SOC since July, and I've been working night shifts since August, I think. September timeframe. So not that long, but long time. Feels like an eternity sometimes. But
yeah, I was gonna say still 4 months is pretty solid for that. And I'm gonna check into that. But so if you've been in the SOC for about a year now, right? And this was your break-in role into the industry, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess tell us, Jess, is being a SOC analyst all it's cracked up to be? Is it what you thought it would be? Before we get into the night part, let's just talk about SOC analyst in general. What do you think about that as a role?
So I mean, the SOC's going to be different for every business, every place you go. The SOC's going to work a little differently. For me personally, I work for an MSP, so we support lots of different customers at night and during the day too, obviously. But you know, for me at my level, I'm basically going through, I'm reading alerts, I'm investigating those the best I can. If it turns out it's going to take a lot of time, I'll pass it on to a SOC too. But my job's pretty good about letting us, if we have the bandwidth to just investigate it ourselves, and I think that's really cool. So you know, you go through and that's what you basically do. And I know to some that might sound boring, but it's not. Like I am loving it way more than I thought I would. Initially, I started wanting to get into pen testing like everybody else, and I still would love to do that. But I think the SOC is a perfect place for anybody to start. especially people in a career change, because you don't realize how many processes are just in every tiny little Windows, program. Everything that fires off, you're like, wait, this, and this are a result of this. And so working in the SOC gives you the opportunity to see that all the way through. And I think that's really cool.
That is exceptionally cool. Now, I want to bring Stacey on stream with us, our other guest of a SOC Night in the Life, so we get really great perspective. Hey, Stacey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good. Yeah, we just got started here. We were talking. I was asking Jess about what is her experience with just working in a SOC. Is it exactly what she thought it would be? Is it slightly different than what she thought it'd be? This is before we get into the nightlife business, Stacey. So I'll throw the same question to you because it is a really good one to get perspective. You've been working in a SOC for about a year now. Is it what you thought it would be, and how is it different than your expectations?
Oh no, it's a completely different. I think, especially from when I was trying to break in, I think everyone at the time that I was following was trying to break in. And so we only had this kind of antiquated idea of what the SOC was. It's like a terrible quality of life, terrible experience. Don't want to work there. So I was like terrified when I was like job hunting. I was like, I don't want to work in SOC. And, but like all of us, we just want a break. And so when I finally took it, I was pleasantly surprised about it's not quite as scary as some of those OG SOC analysts make it out to be. Definitely intense, but I don't know. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love being a SOC analyst.
Well, let me unpack that a little bit there. So like what's one example where it was like, here's a story or a myth, and then when you get there, you're like, that's not true?
Okay, well, so I think you hear so much about alert fatigue, and that definitely is a thing. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you definitely need your breaks or whatnot. But for me, and I work in an MDR, so my tech stack is varied, customer base is varied. But it's still exciting to me. I mean, it could be just still a new analyst in my mind. Like I love like picking up network alerts, endpoint alerts, SIM alerts. It's the variety, like I think it just wasn't what I thought it was. I was going to die in the monotony of life, and working in an MDR was no, there's variety, there's different things to get into. And then especially too, as you focus on new goals, your focus kind of changes on your side hustles of things that you're studying and things that you're trying to gain experience and relate it to your work. So I don't know. It wasn't near as terrifying as, just the, daily grind that you see and probably hear about from some of the OGs of cybersecurity.
Cool. Well, I do love myself some SOC too, but I'm probably not the right person to ask about anything because I'll take any role in cyber and be like, this is where I'm at.
Right.
So Jess, let me throw it to you. Ben Howard says in chat down here, oh wait, this Anna Lynn's jumping in on my clicks. I like literally went to click and Anna Lynn jumps in. Ben Howard says the night shift is for zombies. So Jess, is that a true statement or what? Is the night shift for zombies?
I don't think so. I mean, if you allow yourself to get that way, it definitely could be. But there's ways to get around that. I mean, you keep active, you keep a good sleep schedule, you keep hydrated, keep a good diet. You make it work. And like with everything in life, your outlook is how it's going to be. If you think it's going to be terrible while you're on night shift, it's going to be terrible. Mm-hmm. If you roll with it and see all the good things to it, it's going to be awesome. It is hard to kind of function during the day sometimes when friends and family want to go do things. But you have to keep doing them because you can't socially isolate yourself either. So
Yeah, no, I agree. And so just to kind of follow up on that, Anna Lynn says it's all about mindset. And by the way, chat, I do see all your questions coming in. We've got great attendance. We're about 80 people right now. I'm queuing the questions up. Jess and Stacey will be getting to them. Jess, so I can't relate to SOC night shift, but in college, I was roommates with a guy who was a chef. And he basically food and bev life is basically like 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. and they kind of like rolled together, like they had their own social network, because you get out of work at 2 a.m. Like, you're not going to go wake your buddy up to go out for beers at 3 in the morning, but they roll that way because they. So do you find that the night shift has its own kind of social ecosystem, or do you have to kind of like, or do you find one, or do you have to like do what you said before about kind of managing your sleep and trying to live kind of two lives?
A little bit of both. Back when I was in the Army, I worked night shift then, and it was different because it's in person. I wasn't married at the time, and we were out doing things at all hours of the night anyway. So it was easy to find that group of people. But for me, I work remotely, and working night shift, there's, you have to kind of, like, when Stacey posted that she worked night shift, I was like, this is awesome. Somebody else I can talk to at 2 a.m. when I'm really bored.
Oh, that's a really good point. That is. What about you, Stacey? Same question. I mean, did you find that your social life kind of took an impact, or did you have to make adjustments? What was the impact of that?
Yeah, it's kind of I think living two worlds, because during my shift time, I am keeping those hours. So I'm like waking up at 7 and, drinking my coffee and whatnot. But then the days that I'm off, I'm going to bed at 10 p.m. I'm waking up at 7. That's the way I've made it work. I know some other analysts I've talked to said, don't do it that way. It's really draining. But for me, it's just like, I have kids, I have a husband, I have, people that I do want to interact with. So I think it's a bit of a double life situation. And you definitely do kind of fall in and find people who are working kind of a weirder hours than you, to, commiserate with, or to just like catch up with, talk nonsense with, because it can be isolating, working, at night when it's dark, when everyone's asleep, and it's just a world.
Yeah, and I'm going to start getting into the questions in just a second, but let's talk about the workload. And I think there was a question just in a moment ago. I don't know where it is right now, but what's the workload like on the night shift? Is it heavy? Is it similar to what day shift would experience? Or, is it, what's the workload like?
So for me, it varies. Again, MDR, we just expanded recently to like Europe and whatnot. So our customer base is really varied. So I think it can be quite as intense as day shift, especially because there's not quite as many people on nights. So you are having to pick up the extra load. But then, on the reverse side, a weekend's kind of still a weekend. So I think it varies, and then with a holiday gamble, it's either going to be like, it's feast or famine. It's like, Christmas, or it's like a huge exploit rants, it's never, you can never tell. So.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Good to know. Jess, we got a question specifically to you in chat here from Rashina. She wants to know what your IT background was. And I would assume, and how it relates to your ability to execute work. Can you share that?
My IT background is study. Like I got my bachelor's degree in computer information systems. Besides that, a lot of it was self-study because, my IT experience I did have was all home labs and stuff before I started into this, but that was like late 90s, early 2000s. So as you imagine, technology's changed quite a bit since then. Like I remember when they were bringing out the first USB drives, and it was like, oh my gosh, you have portable storage? This is really cool. You
remember zip drives or jazz drives? Remember those?
Yeah. It was all like this. Wow, this is really cool. So a lot of it was catching myself up on it. But you don't have to know everything. And by that, I mean, like, I studied it in school and I did self-study and I went through a lot of Kevin's stuff. But reading it and doing it's another thing. And you can't appreciate it until I feel personally, until I got into the SOC, I knew the stuff, but I didn't know the stuff, if that makes sense. But once I could apply it, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what this and this and this mean. So My IT
Yeah.
background is not an IT background.
No, that's good. And this is partly, like, for those watching, this is partly why practical skills are so coveted by employers and why they reign supreme right now in the job market, because you can read a 50 cookbooks, but that doesn't mean you know how to make good food, right? But if you go work in the kitchen, you can apply your skills and understand and appreciate it, and then complement it with what you've learned in the book. And I think it's very similar to here. Following up on that question, and I'm going to ask you, Jess, first, and then Stacey, I'll be coming to you afterwards. It's from Lane, so it covers your whole face up, Jess. So I'll have to read it and take it down. But when you took the position, right? Was there a lot of training and onboarding to help you get up to speed, or did you already have a knowledge base to start, or how did it complement? Like, what was the training, onboarding, and expectations?
For us, we start with a minimum of 3 weeks of training, and that starts on day shift for my company anyway. And it really depends from there, because some customers have different systems we need to get access to, and they take a little longer to get us access to it. So we might stay on that training shift until they get around to getting us access. And that's nothing we can control. That's all on customer side. So yeah, I mean, my work is really good about taking people who don't have a lot of experience and getting them up to speed. Because they know, I mean, yes, you should have some kind of knowledge before you start, because like, I could see it would be floundering completely blind if you hadn't had any, at least base kind of knowledge about it in a way. If that makes sense. Like, I was on LinkedIn for about a year before I started, year and a half, just learning from the whole community the whole time, as well as my school. So I don't know what it would be like to start completely from scratch. And I could see that if you knew nothing, it would be really, really hard.
Well, and just as a follow-up question, when you're interviewing for a SOC analyst job, right? Sometimes there's a tech screening, sometimes there's technical questions. What's the balance of what you should know for the interview versus what you're expected to be trained? I guess from kind of the employer's perspective, can you comment on that, or?
A little bit. I know, because I did some interviews before this place, and a lot of it was like the basic questions that you have on your introduction to SOC video. You're interviewing for SOC or whatever it is that you had.
Oh, SOC Analyst Q&A?
Yeah. A lot of what they covered was on that. But I think it's important to have a base understanding of all that. Not like a deep understanding. You don't have to do a deep dive into it quite yet, but understand it a little bit, be able to talk about it. And while you're interviewing, if you don't know something, be honest about that. Be yourself, and do not, because if you can't explain something, that's going to be the one thing they're going to ask you to really explain.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Throwing it to you, Stacey. Like, what about you and the onboarding and the training and your, in your IT background, and how that played in kind of that whole issue?
Yeah, so I think I was supremely lucky because my company is a startup. And so some of their processes and procedures were still in flux and getting ramped up, whereas like the onboarding process now is pretty streamlined. There's like week by week things to check off. It's almost like a scavenger hunt, alerts to look for, people to interact with. Whereas when I was onboarded, it was essentially a one-on-one with my manager at the time. So every day we would do like alerts together and whatnot. So it was not conventional in the least, but I cherished it. And I think that's what happens when you like work for a startup. There's not as like, I don't know, clear defined roles. Everyone's trying to like fill in where the gaps are needed. And then kind of to Jess's point, you're expected to come in with a background, to know tech essentials, to know cybersecurity fundamentals. So that way, when you see it out in the wild, at least you have a baseline, and at Excel, they really stressed having like, a strategy going into working alerts. And so I think that was the main thing, to orient, strategize, collect evidence, analyze, and record findings. That's like hammered into my head about that's the steps that I need to do when I triage an alert. And that's what they mainly focused on, because the tech stuff, that's constant. There's always updates to either, query language, or, there's new tech getting onboarded, Kubernetes, it's just constantly evolving. But if you had that good mindset and strategy going in, which is what they hammered in, I feel like, they gave me the baseline, and now I can do the extra study to succeed when it comes to new tech.
I love it. Let me answer a quick question really quick here for Lacey Cochran. Lacey says, and Lacey, there is no dumb question, so don't sweat that. Is there a difference between cybersecurity analyst and SOC analyst? I'll just tell you, cybersecurity analyst is probably the most generic term. So a SOC analyst would be a cybersecurity analyst, but a cybersecurity analyst wouldn't necessarily be a SOC analyst. You can be a GRC analyst. Typically the term analyst associates with anyone doing things that are less like building stuff or super dirty hands, like more analyzing things, right? Analyst. And engineer is the other one. So it's cybersecurity analyst, cybersecurity engineer. Engineers are typically like configuring things and in setting things up and stuff like that. Okay. You guys, I just want to let you know, there's like a million questions in chat, which is coming in hot and heavy. So what I want to do, I didn't expect this, which is awesome, by the way, guys. Let me ask you guys the question that is the title of the show, and let you answer that so people get that answered, right? And then we're going to go YOLO on all these questions, because there's a million of them and they're all good, and I want to make sure. So Stacey, tell me what like a typical night in the life of a SOC analyst is for you. Give us some real truths.
Oh gosh, typical night. So on a good night, I will say, like, the way I start my day is being able to sleep until 7 p.m. And that's when I wake up. And I start to get my dinner. I usually get dinner beforehand. I get my coffee on deck. I get some snacks. Like, I have to have my set aside predetermined snacks. If I don't have my snacks, then it's a free for all. Then I snack all night and it's terrible. And then I log in. And one of the things that's helped keep me kind of sane during night, because you kind of lose track of time. I mean, it's dark, there's no like signals, like social signals. You don't have people coming in and out. Like, it's hard to tell the time sometimes. You just get buried in, your work. And so, like, I have little checklists on my calendar that, like, ping, like, okay, review this document, or okay, like, check these meeting notes, or so that's helped keep me sane. But I mean, it varies so much. I truly like it. One of the things we have shift handoff, and I've made that my own thing. So I really enjoy putting that together all through the night. I take a break from the alerts, and I'm like, okay, let me see what's good stuff that, day shift really needs to know about. I think that was actually some advice that I got on LinkedIn, is like, document everything. And I think that's been good. That way my day shift knows, like, hey, these are the alerts I'm struggling with. We need to, put in a suppression, or they're really noisy. Can we talk to the customer or whatnot? Because again, too, it's the rest of the company is asleep. So, some of that, like, day-to-day checklist and office management stuff has to be done, during 9 to 5. So I've definitely gotten way better at documenting things and about staying in tune, checking meeting notes. And then honestly, the hardest hour for me is probably about 3 to 4. I'm just like, usually that's when I take my lunch. And in the beginning, I was like asking other analysts, I was like, how do you guys not just crawl into bed and just like stay asleep? It's dark. And it's like, you still have a couple more hours after that. And I think that was a big hump for me to get over. And so luckily I was able to adjust my sleep schedule. So I was sleeping until 7. And so now it's not as bad as a temptation to go crawl into bed, especially working from home. I mean, it's right there.
Right.
But all in all, then, I wrap up and my shift handoff's already prepped. And so when it's time, when morning shift starts rolling in, I can go ahead and post that for them, give them the rundown, and I'm off. And usually I hit the gym afterwards, and I try and stay up until noon. That allows me to sleep longer.
Mm-hmm.
I tried going to sleep right after shift, but that was terrible. I kept waking up. I couldn't get enough sleep in. So I try to stay up until noon so I can get a decent amount of sleep. And yeah, that's kind of a messy rundown of what nights look like for me.
No, it's excellent though. And when Jess comes back, we'll ask Jess what her deal is. But I think, I think you perfectly portrayed expectations, the truth of what it is, some of the challenges that you encounter. I think it's great. Chat seems to love it. Tom Pike's here. Tom, I thought you lost our phone number, brother. What are you doing?
He's grinding right now. So unfortunately, I have not worked the same shift as Tom yet. We work at the same company. I keep telling him he needs to come join me on nights so we can hang. But he doesn't seem to want to make that transition yet. So hopefully after hearing this talk, he'll want to jump on board.
He'll realize that night is where it's at.
Oh, yeah.
So let's bring Jess back in, and I'll throw the question to Jess, and then we're going to start going rapid fire through the questions submitted from chat. Chat, keep sending those questions, and they're great. You guys are all great. We're about to crest 100 people here in the stream with us. Jess, what's a typical night in the life of a SOC analyst for Jess Bishop?
For me, when I first get on shift, because we're a smaller company right now. I mean, we're growing fast, but when I first get on shift, I do 11-hour shifts. I saw somebody ask that before, how many days a week do you work? So I do the 4 days a week with that, which I love the 3 days off. But for me, when I first got on shift, I have somebody on with me for a few hours, and then probably about 4 hours in the middle of the night, I am by myself. And then after that, after that 4 hours, the next shift starts rolling in. So for me, it's a lot of, when I first get on shift, I catch up, I take care of, like Stacey said, any of that admin stuff that needs to be done, that it's helpful to be able to sit through and work through it. And sometimes you have to come back during the day to do it because some people just aren't up at night. So I know. So yeah, it's really about managing my time. I found when I work days, you can go through each alert and you can respond to it one at a time. You can, and for me, I personally like pulling a bunch of alerts from the same customer around the same time so I can see if there's any patterns going. So at night, basically what I do instead when I'm on my own is I go quickly through alerts and I don't respond to all of them initially. I do a quick check. I'm like, okay, this process was blocked. This is blocked. This is blocked. I'm okay here. And once I get through the entire queue, if all of it just looks pretty normal and okay, then I can go through and start pulling alerts and responding to them. Now, if something seems weird for a customer, because I've made a post about this, one of the things I really enjoy is getting to learn kind of a customer's norm, like the behavior for their organization. And so when something pops off that is weird. I mean, and at that point, you got to decide, okay, do I need to start making calls or is this something that can be handled right now? And, unfortunately, you got to make a lot of those calls at 2, 3 in the morning. Of course, everything happens at 3 in the morning when everybody's asleep.
Of course.
So you not be afraid to pick up that phone and call a total stranger and say like, yo, your system's something's funny going on. What's going on with this? But you have to have answers for them first because nobody wants to be woken up at 3 in the morning with I think this is what is happening, and you can't answer questions. So, from there, at that point, I get a hold of our on-call people because we do have on-call people. So I pull them into it if it looks serious, and we just kind of go from there and take it how it needs to be. And there's sometimes you can't get a hold of anybody because, some people sleep through alarms, some people sleep through phone calls, and you have to be able to be comfortable with making a decision at that point. Like I'll give it a couple of weeks ago, I could not get a hold of anybody. And it turns out the customer recently had changed some of their people and had not updated our call list for them. And so I ended up calling somebody who wasn't even at the company. And they're like, no, I don't even work there. Sorry. So
Awkward.
It was embarrassing. But I was like, remember. So at that point, I was like, okay, I got to quarantine the machines because this looks serious. Weird stuff is going on. If it turns out to be nothing, I'd rather be safe about it at this point. And so you have to be comfortable with that. You just have to.
throw the band hammer down, Jess, and shut it down. Shut them
Yeah.
all down. Shut everybody.
To Jess's point, I think one of the biggest benefits to being on nights is being able to gain that like confidence.
Yes.
And you have to be like, you're right. If you're going to wake somebody up, well, then I need to scope and I need to tell them what looks weird, what I found, the actions I've taken, and why I'm calling them. And like during day shift, it's so easy to just like turn to like a senior and be like, hey, does this look weird? Doing it night shift, you don't really got that. And so it definitely makes you problem solve in a whole new way and be concise and just a way that you didn't necessarily have to be on days. And so, I mean, I feel like it's a huge area that allows you to level up and like, a relatively safe environment, because you do have those seniors on call. You do have those people to turn to. I have fellow analysts who I work with at night. So I'm a luckier there. I don't have a solo area, which is terrifying, Jess. So you're so bomb and boss to be able to do that. But no, I think the biggest benefit is, you gain so much confidence doing this at night.
I love it. Brandon Poole's in chat. Brandon Poole, longtime Simply Cyber community member and also just great guy. He's actually was the guest on Real Truths of SOC Life video on my channel, if you recall that. He just wanted to say that you both are awesome, Jess, and he's clearly talking to you two, by the way. There's no question. The night shift in the SOC is the most underappreciated group within the SOC. So interesting. Do you feel that way? Like when it comes time to hand out trophies for SOC analysts and like giving out like catered meals for the groups, is the night shift getting slighted in any way? Or maybe you guys don't want to say that because you currently work there.
No, I want my company to know. No, I'm just like, no, I think it happens a little bit by like it just kind of happens because we're not there, and so it's a little bit of out of mind, out of sight.
Yeah.
But when they do talk about us, they hype the hell out of us, and it does feel good to get to see those accolades, like whether it be like on the company pages or whatnot, to see like, hey, people do see what we do, like people are going back and looking at our documentation or our drops to the customer and, thinking we did a cool job. So, they're always appreciative, but yeah, we do miss out on like, the pizza parties, the cool, whatever. Oh, well.
Interesting. All right. So guys, it's, we're about 35 minutes into the stream, about halfway through. Are you ladies ready for some rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
All right, so we're just gonna go down. I'll give like, unless it's like something, it'll be like one for Stacey, and then I'll switch and go to Jess and stuff like that. Okay, so starting from the tippy top, Kerry basically it says it a long way, but Stacey, he says that basically he's being told he has to start at the help desk to get into cyber, to get into a SOC. Is it true? Does he have to get that help desk experience?
My truth, no. I started right at the SOC. Everyone's journey is different. There's no straight path. So at least for me in my journey, I did not start at help desk. It would be so much more helpful if I did. I'd know all those processes, what things like are truly supposed to look like if it's admin activity. I think that's like especially at night, it's constantly, is this admin activity or is this like heinous evil going on right now? So I think working a help desk would definitely be beneficial, but is it a end all be all? No.
Okay, good point. I think I'll do two per person and switch. So Dallas wants to know from like, what's a good pathway to get into the SOC? He suggests CCNA cert, foundation, entry level jobs. It kind of pairs nicely with this help desk thing. I guess, what are your thoughts on a good career path into the SOC?
Again, I think it's truly one of the great things about cybersecurity is like, maybe it's a good thing and a frustrating thing that there's not these boxes that you have to check, because so many people have the boxes checked and like, it's still like, it's kind of like up to luck and the opportunity if you land that role. So always, I say networking. I think I've come from a place of yes. I didn't want to be a SOC analyst when I was approached to apply for this job. But if I would have been like, no, I don't want to be a SOC analyst, I wouldn't be here. So you definitely need to come from a place of yes, of whatever opportunities, especially when you're trying to break in, come your way, whether it's GRC, whether it's SOC analyst, whether it is help desk. I just think come from a place of yes, get in, and then, pivot, grow, gather up all that opportunity and use it to your advantage.
Love it. Jess Bishop, to you. Is SOC life like a call center life where you have queues and you're waiting for alerts to show up, or are you actually allowed to threat hunt?
For us, it's more like a call center. I mean, we don't actually get the calls in most of the time. It's all on computer, but we work with so many different systems and so many different big name tools in the industry. There's just, I've worked in a call center before. I would never do that again. This is not like that. I mean, if you make it like that, I guess it could be, but there's so much to do with and need to learn, and you can really get into rabbit holes. So I love it.
All right, that's cool. Oliver asks, and I love this question. Jess, how could one look for a SOC analyst at night shift positions, considering that most people would prefer the work in the day? So if you guys, which you guys are doing a compelling job right now of selling the night shift at the SOC, how might one approach trying to get that role, that night shift role? Jess.
I know when I was interviewing, all of the interviews that I had were for, they said, hey, we have this graveyard shift position open. So for me, I found, and maybe I'm to run into all the jobs that we're interviewing for graveyard. It seems like a lot of places are interviewing for that position because it's not as desirable.
Okay. Oh, okay. For a second, you were kind of chunking out there, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't lose you. Yeah, maybe I might even say, okay. Jess, you correct me if this is incorrect statement, but you might even want to mention in the interview or the first one that like you're interested in the night shift, or you'd be open to the night shift, because I feel like that might be something that is a limiting factor for many candidates, and if you opt into it, you might even seem more appealing as a candidate. Thoughts? So Giants of Africa asked Jess, can you be a SOC analyst remotely? I think that's a pretty quick answer.
Yep.
Jess, can you work as a SOC analyst remotely? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Stacey, Amber's got a question. She's a high functioning autistic person. What is a career path to go into SOC from retail? So I guess maybe putting the high functioning autistic piece aside, because I'm not sure if you're qualified, or like if that's something you know about, but if you were in retail, or have you met anyone in retail that's gone into the SOC? Do you have any thoughts around this question? It's very specific.
Yeah, it's super. In fact, I literally just watched your video about somebody pivoting from retail into cyber. So go watch that video that Jerry did. It's very concise, and she hustled, and she anyways, it's a great video. You just should definitely watch it. But I think transferable skills, you can really lean into. You have to work with the public in retail. And I think a soft skill that is overlooked by people trying to pivot in is your communication, whether it's through documentation, communicating with your colleagues, communicating with your boss. I feel like if you can really hone in and, communicate that you are a communicator, that is a solid skill that a lot of current analysts don't really have, because most of the people you meet in the SOC are really just tech oriented. They're grinding, and so if you can sell your communication skills with your background, I think that's an area you can lean into. Again, the ways to pivot in networking is always a huge one that I push. It can be awkward and embarrassing and cringy and tough, but push through it, because you can meet a lot of really cool people. There's communities like Jerry's out there that are super supportive. Even if you just throw comments in his videos, you'll start to get to know people, and then they'll start to post jobs. It's a real thing. It doesn't have to be just cold messaging someone. Can we have a one-on-one? That's super intense. Don't start off like that. There's other avenues to ease your way into networking.
Definitely don't. Yeah, definitely. I had that conversation earlier today in one of these videos of elementary teacher to cybersecurity, and we were talking about how to network, and I accidentally wasn't recording offline. Privately, I was live. Didn't realize until halfway through the interview. And so we took questions from the audience as well. But agree 100%. Really quick, want to shout out Brandon Poole. Again, Brandon's such a great guy, but he threw a $20 super chat into the stream and said, "Great job, everybody. You guys are crushing it." Genuinely appreciate that. Let's keep on grinding these questions. I'm telling you, chat's out of control with questions today. Okay, so we already answered Lane's question about training. So Stacey, what type of schedule did you work was it like 12-hour shifts, 5 days a week, or the more common 4 days, 3 days? We heard Jess's. So what's your shifts like?
So I work 3 days off. What's that? 4 days on? Yeah. Okay, I just got off shift earlier. So I'm still adjusting. Thursdays are always kind of wonky for me because it's like, do I sleep? Do I stay up and just push through it? But yeah, so I have 3 days off. I appreciate it's 10-hour shift. The way at my company, you don't stay on the shift forever. It rotates. So, I'm not going to be on nights forever if I don't want to be. I'll head back to my days or mids or whatnot. So there is variety, but I do appreciate having the 3 days off like Jess. It makes life nice.
Yeah, I had a job where they called it 980s. So you'd work 5 days, 9 hours a day, and then the next week you'd work 4 days, 9 hours a day, and then you'd take that every other Friday off, and it was like the absolute best.
Yes,
Totally love it. So what I heard, Stacey, was that Tom Pike will have to do a night shift rotation at some point. That's what I heard.
Yes. I'm hoping it's his next round because I want to stay on. I want to do another round of nights. I'm hooked. I want to go ahead and do another round, and I'm hoping he gets voluntold maybe that he should do one too, because it would be fun. We haven't worked a shift together yet, and we always kind of miss each other. So it would be cool to work with him.
All right. Okay, cool. We're gonna have to go rapid fire. We've only got 16 minutes left to stream. And all chat's doing today is firing questions out. Jess, how do you manage your work-life balance?
Intentionally. You have to be very intentional about it. I have found, like, when I first started, I'd find myself just wanting to sleep all the time or lounge around, but you can't do that. You have to get yourself moving. I have kids, so like Stacey said, I can't just be in bed all day and be like, okay, whatever. I have to get out. I have to do things. If I do stay up at nights, even on my days off, because I don't want to get back into a day shift schedule for 3 days a week and then switch back to nights.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just have to be very intentional about it. You have to set yourself a schedule that works for you. You have to get sleep. You cannot just go without sleep. And
yeah.
If you have a partner or a spouse, you have to lean on them for some of the time. If you're a single parent, you're going to have to get some childcare so you can get some sleep. You can't go without it. So prioritize your sleep and then build everything else around that.
All right. Interesting and great point. You got to prioritize that. Anna Lynn wants to know, Jess, how do you handle alert fatigue or do you suffer alert fatigue?
I do because, unfortunately in this day of cyber insurance, I believe some people, some companies get, SOC services or security services to check the block. It's hard to get them to tune their systems. So you do have to, for me personally, I will find a different type of alert to work on, or I will get up and stretch and move around, or I might go through and group a bunch of alerts and say like, hey customer, we've had this and this and this happen. This has been happening every day at this time for, this many months. Can we tune this? It definitely can happen. You just kind of have to work through it. Take some time to study something else for if your company allows it. Do some self-learning, just get yourself away from that computer for even 5 minutes sometimes and come back and just do it.
Love it. So yeah, stay fresh, stay sharp, keep, mental agility as they call it. Stacey, Harish wants to know any tools recommended. You got one or two tools you might point an amateur or a novice to?
Okay, so I don't know about like specific like tools because tech stack's so wide, and I don't want to like shout out a company. I'm not. But
maybe that's the answer. It's not necessarily a tool recommendation.
Yeah. No, I will say like some of my favorite resources are blogs. That sounds so cliche, but like CrowdStrike has some really great. One of the things I like looking about their blogs is, and this is totally a corny answer and probably not the answer you're looking for, but you should go look up their threat actors. They have killer art for their groups, like Fancy Bear. Their Fancy Bear art is just wild. It makes you hyped to learn about these threat groups. Red Canary has also really great blogs. I read one about process injection, and they compare it to Harry Potter and the Polyjuice Potion, and it just makes it fun. And then on YouTube, some of my favorite people, Tom knows this because I talk about her all the time, is Katie Nichols. She does a ton of MITRE stuff, and she just makes things so approachable. I'm constantly rewatching her talks just because it's just really great fundamentals to, you can't ever get enough of those. So I kind of spread it all around. I don't do too heavy into learning, but I try to keep, updated of what's going on. And then, I'm always referencing the blog posts when I see something weird. I'm like, I know this. What should I be looking for? And so that's kind of how
I love it. So Katie Nichols for Simply Cyber Live guest. Check. Noted.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I love it. So, Stacey, what kind of things would you put in your resume when changing careers to SOC? And this is from Amber, our retail to cyber. So she's watched the video. She's executed on all the things in the video on how to go from retail to cyber. Now she's getting her resume dusted up. What would you recommend she puts in there targeting SOCs?
I feel like people are really big on like actionable items. If there's a tech that you're familiar with, put that. If there's a project, man, if you have like a GitHub full of things that you've written, code that you've written, any examples and links are your friend. People are going to want to see that experience, even though you don't have that experience, however that look like, whether it's write-ups for, hack the box. If you can try to put that in like real life examples of whether it's a blog, whether you have an online presence, link that really helps. But again, I'm going to go with the tried and true method that you've got to stay networking. So that way someone sees that resume, and it's kind of a bummer if you have this hyped up resume and then no one really gets to see it. So stay networking.
Yeah. And I know it's you guys is the show and I'm just here to facilitate, but I do want to interject for just a moment and point out that it like to Stacey's point, it is absolutely critical to network. And what I always like to say is like, I tell my students this at the Citadel, like, I don't care if you're the smartest kid in this room. If nobody knows that, the middle of the pack is going to get the job. Like, we don't live in a meritocracy, right? Like, there's some elements of meritocracy going on, but for the most part, 9/10 of you can all do the job. So you being the smartest one and the best to do it doesn't matter if nobody knows it. So don't put all your eggs in that basket and being like the uber elite person because you're actually sacrificing more value by not taking time to engage and network with community. Again, I didn't mean to interject or step on your guys' interview, but it's just so important.
Yeah. It really is, and it's such a game changer because that it sucks because people put a lot of pressure on that resume, but it's such a small part of it because you're still going to have interviews. You're still going to have like technical questions thrown at you. And yeah, you do need to have a solid resume, but it's not the end all be all. And I definitely think there's other areas that if you lean into can really change the outcome.
Yeah. So another question for Stacey. I think this might be a loaded question. And if you don't feel comfortable answering it, Stacey, we can definitely move on. Tom Pike wants to know, what's the future look like for you? Are you planning on continuing to work at Expel or move on to somewhere else? I mean, that's not exactly how it reads, but that's how I'm reading it.
Yeah, that's how that reads. Well, it's just funny because again, me and Tom work together. We work on opposite shifts. And so he's constantly someone that we're like goal checking each other. We're like, hey, what's going on? What certs are you studying for? What things? So he knows I'm kind of in a place of like, I don't know what to do next. My immediate goal, I want to hit career, which is the next level. I'm currently an associate analyst and I want to hit career level. And I'm hoping to make that sometime this year. And then he knows I'm kind of like, I don't know what to do after that. Do I go into management? Do I become like a senior? Do, lean into IR? So yeah, he's kind of poking at me because he knows I'm really conflicted about not having a solid game plan after this.
All right. Well, good question, Tom. Carrie wants to know, Jess, if he wanted to get experience in SOC, what would he need? Maybe a suggestion on, a lab or a tool or a book to read or something. Like, how might you get a little experience in the SOC?
Anti-siphon training has some really, really good trainings for this. And the nice thing about the anti-siphon trainings is a lot of them are pay what you can. Mm-hmm. And so they make it affordable for people, and they truly do. I mean, when I they did me a solid one time, and I still need to give back for that. I'm just kind of saving up my cash for it. But they cover everything, and in their labs they include everything you need to be able to do the things. They have some VMs with some great tools loaded on them. I would start with anti-siphon training personally. I just love them.
All right.
And their range is fantastic. And for me personally though, like Stacey said, when I started, I didn't want to be in the SOC because you heard all these horror stories about how boring it was and how terrible it was. And, so at one point I was like, I need to focus on study because, as you know, it's easy to get spread out when you first are trying to get in. I'm like, I want to do pen testing. I'm just going to study for pen testing. I'm tired of being all over the place. I don't want to be in a SOC, whatever. So after I started focusing on pen testing study, because somebody I'd been networking with saw everything I was doing with that, they're like, I think you can do this other job. You want to do it? I'm like, yeah. Because like Stacey said, passing up that foot into the industry would be really dumb.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. 100% agreed. At minimum,
Carrie,
get the 1 year experience, right?
Yeah. Carrie, just find something you love about cybersecurity and study the heck out of it. It doesn't matter, what it is about cybersecurity you love. Focus on an area, study on it, put out your stuff about it, and talk about it. So it'll catch somebody's attention.
I love it. Just to share a personal story, my very first job, so like breaking in, because I was a complete idiot. And like when I graduated college, I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to beat back the offers with a stick. And in reality, I didn't like really push myself or do extracurriculars because I just thought a computer science degree was a golden ticket, which it wasn't. So I'm like lugging, like literally this like, 120-pound soaking wet frame is lugging bricks around and doing construction, which sucked. And I like got a job interview, and we get to the final. They're like, "We want you. Like, what's it going to cost?" And I'm like, "Well, I've done all my research." And at the time, $41,000 for the area and for the space and everything was totally reasonable. I'm like, "Well, I've done all this research and analysis." Like, push my glasses up my nose, and I'm like, "I think $41,000 is an average median salary for this role." And they're like, "All right. That's really cute that you think that. We're going to give you $26,000, right? Which is like gross." And the president leaned over. So it was like a small business. The guy in charge, he leans over the table. He's like, "Listen," he's like, you're doing construction right now, right? Like you clearly want a corporate job, right?" He's like, "And you're not getting one because you would be doing it already. So what I'm giving you is $26,000 and you'll take it because you need this job. And you'll probably work here a year and quit because you need the experience in order to get a different job." And I'm like, "No, I think I'll have to think about it." And like the whole drive home, I'm like, the motherfucker, it's so
yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, it was wicked terrible. I took the job. I quit 1 year anniversary, got a much better job right afterwards. But hey, silver lining. It's not Tidbit Tuesday on the Daily Cyber Threat Briefing, but I will share. I met my wife at that job, and you know what I mean? So like, it wasn't all terrible. She was clearly the best part about the job. All right, this isn't about me. All right, Jess, IT Sorceress wants to know what your furry friend thinks of your night shift schedule.
Oh, they're very calm at night, and they usually are asleep. And I've got another big one around, and they love it when my husband goes to bed. And then my dog loves it when I go to bed too. He gets like double sleep, and he loves it.
Oh, that's perfect. I love it. Stacey, Truthsayer wants to know, can you get in the SOC with just a Sec Plus cert?
Okay, I feel like I'm getting these questions that aren't fair to people because I don't have my Security Plus. So
well, no. So the answer is yes, you could because you can do it without one.
Yeah, you definitely can. I don't have my Security Plus. It's like on the bucket list this year, not because I need it, but just because I don't know. It feels like a box I need to check for personal reasons to get that Security Plus.
Okay, good point. I love it. Stacey, what position, and you kind of spoke to this earlier, but what position would you like to move into after being a SOC analyst? Or is that still TBD?
Yeah, that's still for me. It's definitely to be determined. We have some great shift coordinators that kind of like man the comms between us and other teams. And then we have really cool seniors who get to work and do more forensic stuff, which is exciting, but a totally different career path. And then because I'm in cyber, it just kind of opens up the door to a lot of other opportunities, outside of Excel. So honestly, I don't know yet. I don't know.
No, it's all good. It's a hard one, especially. I mean, with all due respect, you've only been doing it for a year, right? And you love it, so focusing on now and doing the best you can now. Stacey, Shane wants to know: was it a hard transition for your family life?
Going in to do nights.
I would assume, yeah.
Okay. So for nights, it definitely has been an adjustment, but I still, my shift starts at 9. So I usually, I can still eat dinner with my kids. I say goodnight to my kids. And then on the flip side, I'm there in the morning and I wake them up. I wake them up in the morning. I'm still like, so it definitely is an adjustment. They have to deal with me sleeping during the day, although with kids, kind of like my kids are older, they're in middle school, but I mean, a shut door doesn't really mean anything to them. They'll just come in.
That's so true.
Yeah. They kind of, respect the fact that I need to sleep, but honestly, their lives hasn't changed much, unfortunately. But I think that goes with just being a parent. You kind of are always catering to the needs and responsibilities that are there. But it has been an adjustment. Everyone's been solid and on board, but like Jess said, you have to be intentional with planning your days off. You can't just sleep. You have to make sure you're planning for activities and whatnot and sleeping accordingly.
Okay, I 100% love it. We're getting close to the end here, unfortunately. I do think we're gonna have to schedule another call. There's just like 75 questions that we haven't got to.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So, Jess, a question for you from Adam. What about during peak times like holidays? I don't know if you've worked holidays yet. I mean, was it particularly active or inactive? You hear horror stories that threat actors prey on holidays, right?
I think it's all a roll of the dice. It can be or it can't be. So
yeah,
because I was prepared for it, but it was slow personally. But it really depends on your customers and what's going on a political landscape, what's going on and target lists. I don't know how the threat actors choose their targets, but it's really just to roll the dice.
All right, so I guess not the holidays aren't particularly they could be hot or they could not, but it's not really relevant to the day. Nick Barker would like to either start a channel together or start your own channels. Apparently Nick is not happy that that the stream has reached its 1 hour threshold. Normally we go late, but I am making dinner tonight for the family. So let me just put it this way to chat and to everybody and to Jess and Stacey. First of all, I genuinely appreciate you guys coming. Second of all, if you are interested, I would love to have you back to continue the conversation and answer all of these questions. It's just, there's an amazing amount of them. But as I like to do with my guests, and you guys are spectacular guests and get all of the trims that come with the Simply Cyber Live guest experience, I will give you the floor for final thoughts, final sayings. Jess, I'll let you go first, and then Stacey, I'll throw it to you. So Jess, final thoughts for everybody as we wrap up the show?
Yeah, I mean, it is what you make of it. You have to be intentional with everything. I did see the question a couple times come through about, keeping visibility in the company, and that can be hard or not hard. I mean, on the plus side, at nighttime, you're pretty much in focus. So if you're doing something awesome, they're going to know. You have to be intentional with connecting with your coworkers too when you work night, if you don't have a big shift. You just have to make sure that you get in there and let them know you're there and make good notes and pass those on and keep balance with your family and your own personal life too. Because I mean, as much as I love cybersecurity and the job, it is a job. I have another life. I make sure I have other hobbies. I make sure I have connections outside of cyber, and it's just good to find that balance.
All right. Let me do this. Thank you, Jess. Well put, well spoken. compartmentalization, making things in your life that are priorities, maintaining that they are priorities. I love that. Miss Stacey, soon to be YouTuber, Miss Stacey, throw it to you. Final thoughts.
Wow, just like, thank you for having me on. And, I was really intimidated at first when I was, approached about, hey, you think you're ready for night shift? But honestly, it's been a really cool time for me to mature as an analyst. Like Jerry said, I've been in the MDR for about a year. And I mean, I can feel my skills just like leveling up all around. It's led me to have more independence, more confidence. I've made the effort to like Jess said, you definitely have to make the effort to communicate with your peers because, and to stay active. So that way they know, hey, Stacey's on nights. But this is an experience I've definitely treasured. So if you get assigned night shift, or if you're told in the future, hey, you think you're gonna have to do around the nights, I definitely encourage you to approach it like an opportunity and take it as one. This is your chance to really grow in a safe environment. So take advantage of that. This leveling up only comes at night. So you guys got to come on night shift.
I love it. A really well-placed, subtle advertisement for night shift SOC work with Stacey Lokey. And you can check in with Tom Pike in the next 2 to 3 months and find out how his night shift is going over there at Expel. All right, chat. This is going to do it for the show. I do want to remind everybody, if you did not know, oh boy, this is kind of big and awkward. How do I make this look less big and awkward? No, that's not an option. That works. So down here is the daily cyber threat briefing. Go ahead and check it out every single weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time, except starting next Thursday, which would be 10 a.m., which makes it absolutely confusing for me to say this in a short read. So come check out the daily cyber threat briefing, where we go through the top cybersecurity news stories of the day every single day, and I provide my analysis. Plus, Jess is there. Stacey shows up from time to time, but I think it's because she's on night shift. And we have a good time and network in there. So go check it out. It'll be definitely worth it. I do want to thank all of you for being here today. Genuinely appreciate your questions. I know we didn't get a chance to get to all of them. That doesn't mean that your questions weren't important or very good. It's just that there's just so many questions and so little time. We will, I will ask Jess and Stacey if they will come back for Night in the Life of a SOC Analyst Part 2 or Part 2. Maybe I won't do that again. And we'll have a good time if they can come on. Bring your questions. Thank you all so very much. You guys have been wonderful tonight. I genuinely appreciate the love and support you deliver. All right. Until next time, stay secure.